Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome down to this week's episode of Progress Not Perfect, a podcast where we gather to speak about personal development from an Islamic point of view. Now, being in the personal development industry for a while, something that has crossed me time and time again is that I find it so difficult to find a concept that modern day science proves to be cutting edge in terms of living the best life that we can live that hasn't already been covered in the Quran or that hasn't already been covered in the life of our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Now, on that note, on today's show, it's not going to be me who's speaking. I've got a very special guest joining me all the way from Turkey to share her life story. And our hope, really, as I even discussed with her, is for the sisters out there, and well, the brothers also, of course, to draw inspiration, to share the story that she has, and to understand that life isn't always a straight line. And as much as we plan and as much as we try to steer this ship in the direction we want to, as Muslims, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ultimately the best of planners. And even though we know that sometimes it can be tough in the reality of life, yeah. So hearing fellow sisters, hearing fellow brothers who have been through similar journeys, sharing their stories can always serve as inspiration. So the guest that's joining us today is a certified life coach. She is a respiratory therapist and she holds a master's in healthcare delivery from ASU. She's also a scholar from the alumni of the Abdullah Al Ghurair Foundation. I really hope I got that pronunciation correct. For education, she is a Global Peace Delegate, a leader, a public speaker, and a storyteller, as you will find out very soon. Brothers and sisters, please welcome to this week's episode, Sister Basma. Basma, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much for this beautiful introduction, Shuaib.
Alhamdulillah, this is all with the help of Allah, what you have rightfully earned. So there is nothing to thank. Basma, before we jump into the bulk of what I wanted to speak today, I wanted to know, for all of the sisters who are tuning in today and who are listening to this podcast with the hope of finding some inspiration, some guidance, some tips, right? Did you always plan to be where you are today and doing the profession that you are doing today?
Well, to be honest, no. I haven't thought ever that I would end up being as a life coach or even having this type of, let's say, career that might not be that much common. Like we grow up in a family as a traditional family, either you be an engineer, a doctor, this regular careers that everyone go. And then this is the way, like you have a set plan, you either choose one of them and just follow like other people what they used to do. So I didn't have an idea that I will be turned up as a life coach, but now after I go through my life journey, I feel like it always led me to this one.
And before you became a life coach, what did you think you were going to become, or what did you think you wanted to do as a career or as a profession?
Yeah. So I actually graduated as a respiratory therapist. I used to work in the ICU and I didn't choose my specialty. It was like out of a scholarship I get. I found, okay, this is a good opportunity. Why I don't take it? I enjoyed doing it. I worked for 5 years, but then I felt like there is no improvement. I always seek something better. I was aiming, I'm always ambitious that I want something more. I want to do more. So I tried to sign up for a master degree in healthcare, said maybe this will give me a chance to, let's say, do something better or have maybe like a promotion or take a more important role in my job, let's say. But I think it did not end up as I planned. I finished master degree, but I was let out of my job, surprisingly. So then I start to think what I really want to do. Is it really what the things that is this my passion? Is this my goal? Then here's where it comes the changing point, where I reset and reassess everything thought of, everything, or let's say it started my self-discovery journey from this.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. And I think the listeners already understand. I mean, to be somebody who has a master's in that particular field, to be working in that field, to be given a scholarship, means that Basma isn't your necessary everyday average performer, right? And I'm sure at Basma, it wasn't easy to get to where you were. And I'm sure that you would have definitely put in a lot of work. And, next to the will of Allah, of course, we have to definitely recognize that effort on your end, which brings me to a very important question, because there's going to be a lot of brothers and sisters who are listening to this who may be currently trying to pick out their university degree or pick their masters. There might be some of them who've already picked it and they're halfway through that journey, but they're having second thoughts. Did I pick the right one? What am I going to do? And then there are some who are very sure about what they picked and they're doing it, but they don't know that at the end of it, they're going to find out that maybe this is not what I really wanted to do. Now, Basma, you've been down this journey. You picked something, and then, of course, I know your specialization may have gotten picked, but ultimately you decided to take that path. You invested your time, your energy, you sacrificed so much to get to where you are, right? And then you said you had a moment where you realized that this might not be the path you want to go down, right? Certain incidents, like you said, losing your job was something that happened, right? What I really want to try to understand there, Basma, is when you heard the news that there will be no longer the vacancy, or the position that you're serving currently will no longer exist for you, how did you feel in that moment?
Surprisingly, I was happy. I
Why?
don't know why. I just have this guts feeling that this is a good thing gonna happen to me. There is a good thing. Maybe it's like a screaming point that I don't know, it had to happen to my life for me to unlock my other potential.
Mhm.
Sometimes you need a shock to wake up for you to do something that you are meant to be doing other than the thing you do. So when I look back then, I had a feeling that this is a good thing. I had a feeling that there is something better is gonna happen to me. I didn't know what. It's supposed to be a bad news, like as everyone know, like it was a shock because I get my master, have good ambitions, good hopes that I'm gonna be promoted, I'm gonna get raised. But then I suddenly let out of my job. Then I said, okay, then all my hopes was not in this right direction. Maybe there's something else I need to do. Something else is more suitable for me, more fit for me, and it's toward my own real passion.
Basma, let's be real. A lot of people who would have been in your position would not have been able to generate that perspective that you had.
Mhm.
Did you always be somebody who thought like that?
Yeah, I'm always an optimistic person, to be honest. And I have faith in Allah that everything happens to you for a reason, and it's always a good reason. So that's why I feel like whenever you see it as negative from outside, you need to believe it's a positive thing for you or it's something toward it's for your own benefit. So you just be need to be patient and need to go with it. And even if you see that maybe, as you said before, some people will choose their specialty or they don't know, they feel that this is their specialty, this is their thing, this is their talent, but maybe they will change it later. It's fine to try things. Try. Don't be afraid to fail because out of the trial, you will get to know what is best for you or what's not working for you. But you need to try. Sometimes, especially when we are freshly graduate from high school, most of us didn't know what the type of career they want to have or what type of future goals they want to set. But again, don't let not knowing put you down or just slow down your life. Just use whatever is available for you and then take your decision whether this one works for me or not. But at least you try. And every trial, you will learn something out of it. You will gain definitely an experience. You never know, but you need to just take opportunity and go with it. And you will see wonders. Within your way, you will learn more about yourself and you've been able to take better decision for you.
Yeah, I can really relate with that, and I get where you're coming from because I mean, I'm sure most of my listeners would know, but if you're new to the show, a lot of you may not know that I never planned to be where I was as well. This was not something that I chose from the very beginning. In fact, I went very far down a path that I no longer pursue. Right? I mean, my initial bachelor's was in accounting and finance, a diploma in economics, and then a professional in management accounting, and I jumped into the corporate world, into marketing, which had nothing to do with what I studied with, right? And I spent some time there. And it was not until, just like in your case, Basma, where you had that outside shock, as you mentioned, right? For me, I got that shock in a different way. It came in the form of a health challenge that came my way, that forced me, right? That forced me to pause. Not because I wanted to pause, but I was physically incapable of carrying on. And Allah created that time frame for me to really, really reflect and to really, really, really ask myself, what am I doing with my life? Where am I headed? What is important? Right. And I like what you said about sometimes in that situation, you don't necessarily from there need to have some big ambitious dream. You said work with what you have, see what are the resources you've got, and really what you were trying to say there is take that next step. Sure, you don't know, if I take this new direction, am I going to become a professional in it, am I going to make a career out of it? You don't know. But right now Allah has given you some resources. Look around you, right? Be resourceful. It's okay for us to feel down, to feel a little bit demotivated. That's human. Yeah. But I always tell my clients as well, we set a timer for 5 minutes. And for 5 minutes, you can whine, you can cry, you can complain, get it out of your system, right? But when that timer goes and those 5 minutes are done, Bismillah, we start again and we take a look at, okay, what's at my disposal? What is still good? What is still available? And how can I build from there? And even though I had that big realization and that massive external stop to my life, building from there to where I am today began with one step. And sometimes it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 5 steps back. And you just have to keep going, like you mentioned, right? And eventually, Allah's plan is always better and it gets better. But like you said, I love what you said about you have to have patience, right? You have to have patience. In Islam, we say sabr, right? That sabr is a key component to any form of success. And the thing is, Basma, we hear this so much today, right? From people who are leaders in business, people who are leaders in nations, even people who have built great family environments. They tell you it takes time. They tell you that you need to have patience. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's challenging for today's generation because we've been spoiled with convenience and ease. Things come at the click of a button. You binge watch entire episodes, or seasons rather, of a TV show. You don't no longer wait. Like I remember back in the day, we waited 1 week for the television network to show you, something that you could watch. It was just 30 minutes and kalas, it was done after that, right? I mean, and I'm not saying that these advancements in technology and society are bad. No, in fact, they're actually a good thing. They're supposed to make it convenient for us. So we free up our time and we can make better use with that time. But unfortunately, what has happened is we've used that free time to get distracted, addicted, and go down a very, very dark rabbit hole that we don't want to really go down. Basma, I want to come back to that conversation, right? Where you said this external shock took place. Alhamdulillah, you generated the perspective in that moment to see what was available and take the next step. So walk us through that moment. You've just got the news. You've gone through the process. You've now told yourself, okay, what's available? What can I do next? What did you do next? Can you explain to us how you came from being there in the profession that you were doing to where you are today working as a life coach?
Yeah. So after I was let go, I tried to, as usual, to apply for other jobs, but I didn't get any offer. Was also another shock. So I stayed, let's say, 6 months at home without doing anything, and this is was a new for me because I have been working constantly for 5 years since I graduated from high school. I even directly before I get my diploma, I just directly started working. So I never had this time for myself, this pause in my life, feeling like, okay, I have nothing. What should I do? What is my next plan? If I don't have my job, who I am? what exactly define me other than my specialty, what is my dreams, what is my goals. So this period made me do lots of self-reflection. And through this self-reflection, I attended lots of courses on self-discovery, on life coaching, and how to set your goal, how to know yourself. And from that, the answers start to reveal a little bit with days. It's in the beginning, I said, okay, maybe I know English. Okay, I can teach English. Then I said, okay, maybe I can apply for PhD, although I didn't want to, but I said, I will do, I'm still in the program. Like, okay, you finish this one, do what other people did. Let's do as they did. So I said, okay, what can I do? Then suddenly I start to feel like this is not the thing I want. And then I got opportunity to move to Turkey. I was actually before living in Saudi Arabia. So I get the chance to change the environment I'm in. And I took the decision. I said, okay, I'm moving to Turkey. There is nothing to put me there. Maybe changing the environment or the land you are in will help you to open for you other doors, or let's say other opportunities. So I take the chance I have and I said, okay, I'm moving. And from there, it continued to open and live in the life I really wanted and discovering lots of things that I was not even thinking about before.
I really want to touch on 2 points there, Basma. The first one is I love how earlier you told us that patience was a key component of the success you had in terms of making a comeback. But you also mentioned to us that it's not just patience, right? You also said you put in a lot of work, right? You were trying these different courses, you were studying, you were learning, you were seeing where the opportunities are. And I think that's something that sometimes we as Muslims, we fall short in. We trust in Allah, but we fail to tie the camel, right? As we are told to tie the camel and trust in Allah. And for those who may not be very savvy with it, the tying doesn't obviously just literally mean your camel, but the tying really represents the effort, which is your part that we need to do, right? We hear so many scholars saying the solution to poverty is not sitting at home and only making dua. Yes, you must make dua, you must recite your Quran, but you must also leave your home and go search for your share of sustenance, right? We hear about the bird that leaves the nest with an empty stomach, and it comes back at the end of the day with its stomach full, right? And who ensures that this happens? It's the rizq of Allah. Allah has already written that rizq. But the part that we brush over and we kind of go really fast is the bird flew out of the nest, went out there, looked for it, then Allah gave it, and the bird came back. So subhanAllah, this is really what is expected from us as Muslims. And mashallah, that is something that you have exhibited, especially in a time where it's challenging. And that's the other thing I want to highlight there is I always tell my clients as well, it's easy for us to be high performers. It's easy for us to sometimes quote the Quran or even refer to hadith when everything is good in life, right? The real test is when you are between a rock and a hard place, when things are tough, when things are not working out. You've tried 3, 4, 5 different things, it's not clicking, right? Are you still able in that moment to say, Alhamdulillah, still remember the bird needs to fly out of the nest, put in the work, come back in, right? You seem like there was something on your mind when I was saying that you wanted to say. What was it?
Yeah. I remember the phrase in Quran that Allah said, Inna ardi wasi'a, which is my land is wide. And there is lots of phrases in Quran tell you if the things does not work in your current way and you try many times, you need to try another way, even another country, even another land, even another career, another place, another home. You need to try something else if the thing that you keep putting effort on does not work out. And this is something that lots of people debate about, is when to not give up, but when to think of other choices. And it's really depend on each situation. But now when I reflect on my life, I feel like I put lots of effort. Even before I was let out of goal of my job, I was like searching for different job, different careers. I did everything. I stayed there for more than 6 months, but then nothing worked out. Then I said, okay, I need to do something else. I need to change something. So maybe changing the country for me, it was the opening gate for me. And as you said, like, you need the bird to go out and do, and you need to do the work. And this is the thing, you have the belief in Allah, believe that Allah will write everything good for you, but you still gonna be responsible or accountable for the work that you put, the effort. And this is the thing, in Quran Allah said, وأن ليس للإنسان إلا ما سعى وأن سعيه سوف يرى. Is the only thing that you are accountable for is the work that you do. And this is what it's gonna be shown in the life after. You need to do the effort. You are not responsible for the result, and we are all attached to the result. I need to succeed, or I'm afraid to fail, or maybe this one will not work. I over put expectations, but you're not responsible for that. You're responsible to do the effort and go and try it, and whatever the outcomes will come, it's not your responsibility. You cannot guarantee it because it's an ilm al-ghayb. You cannot know it.
SubhanAllah, the Quran never, ever fails to amaze me and impress me. And just as you were saying that, I got goosebumps because, like I mentioned at the beginning in the introduction to the show, is that once again, there is nothing that modern psychology and personal development teaches us that the Quran has not covered already, right? If you look at what do all of these success coaches talk about? They talk about focusing on the process, right? They say focus on the process, focus on the process. The outcome will come, right? And we already, this is a part of our belief as Muslims. We don't necessarily need a syllabus or a curriculum to teach us that, right? Not to say those things aren't beneficial. Of course, we take from whatever that is good. But at the same time, sometimes it's a good reminder for all of us to go back to our book and go back to the life of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Like I'll give you a good example. There's a book here called Start With Why by a popular author known as Simon Sinek, right? And it's a beautiful book because it talks about purpose, right? It talks about how companies that outlast their competitors, that outlast not just the founder's lifetime, but many lifetimes after, right? Governments, countries, causes that outlast even the tests of time. And what the book really proves is how that purpose is the one thing that outperforms everything else. Because they're not chasing some short-term goal, a short-term profit, a short-term outcome where you cut corners, cheat people, you make quick fixes to things, and you just try to win just the day or the week or the month or the quarter. But rather you're thinking in decades and lifetimes. But there were two reflections for me after reading this book. Number one is that as Muslims, alhamdulillah, we are already born with a purpose. Our purpose is already there. We don't actually have to do the activity to find your purpose, right? Alhamdulillah, we were born with a purpose. The second thing is, I always say this book is incomplete. Why? Why is this book incomplete? It is incomplete because the same author writes another book called The Infinite Game, where he talks about business, marriage, relationship, lives. These are not finite games, meaning games that have a definite end. Like in a marriage, you don't have one person winning and one person losing. In business, you don't have a business that wins or loses. You have a company that sometimes puts a product that's better than another company. Maybe next year they launch one that's better than you. There's no guarantee, right? But then you have finite games like football. Two teams play, one win, one loses, right? If it's a draw, penalty kicks, whatever. But somehow there's a winner or a loser in a game, right? But in infinite games, he talks about building businesses that are based on purpose, right? Your big why, your reason, and playing the infinite game, meaning running your business, living your life like you wanted to do it forever. But the reason I say this book is incomplete is even this book, it ends with the dunya. The purpose is dunya related, and the infinite game is actually not infinite because there is a day that the world comes to an end. And subhanAllah, for us as Muslims, we have a book that went beyond that, right? That gave us the guidance to live in this life in a way that you win in the hereafter, which is eternal. So subhanAllah, when you brought up those verses from the Quran, it gave me goosebumps and really reminded me how it truly is a complete book, a way of life. And Basma, it's very clear, I think, at this point in time that a massive strength and a pillar of guidance for you to have gotten through all of these challenging situations that you have been in, to have faith and to come to where you are, has been your deen. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, it all go back now since in the beginning I took multiple courses from an Arabic in a religious way from withdrawn from Quran, and I took the Western one from US and UK, like the other law of attraction and how to believe, and they're all the same. Now, after study from these all schools, they're all the same, but we already have it in Quran. But they just interpret it in other ways that you need to believe in yourself, you are worth it, and the same laws, the universal laws, it's all there in Quran.
Subhanallah,
Mm.
subhanallah. That is so true. And in fact, very recently, I was working with a client who I asked the question of, where does your confidence come from? Like, where is your confidence rooted or anchored? And obviously, people normally say that I need to believe in myself, I need to build my confidence, etc., etc. And sure, there are things that we need to do to build that confidence. But something I always like to remind myself is the only infinite confidence that you can have, and the only unshakable reliance that you can have, is putting your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you anchor your confidence in Allah, no one, nothing can shake you. Nothing can shake you. Now, I always tell people that doesn't mean that you won't cry. That doesn't mean that you won't have fear, right? But what it means is, if your confidence is in Allah, you have hope. And if you have hope, even with tears in your eyes, you will take the next step, right?
Mm.
And that's what I really want, because I always, one thing that puts me off with some of the personal development mentors and gurus out there is portraying this personality of like, that they can coach you into a mindset where every day you're kind of ironclad and like nothing affects you, and every day is an awesome day. You're always born like, you were born positive, you'll die positive, right? Which I always, not, again, not to criticize them, but I always sit back and think, okay, who was the best human ever created? Okay, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Did he have bad days? Yeah. Did he have emotions? Yeah. If the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who spoke directly with the one who created, went through these, I really doubt there's any other human being out here that is going to have a day or a lifetime when nothing ever affects you, right?
Mm.
But the difference is when your anchor of confidence is with Allah, no matter the circumstance, even with tears, even with pain in our hearts, we can still take the step forward. Why? Because we have hope in Allah. SubhanAllah, thank you so much for sharing that with all
You know,
of us.
I have
Please go.
one thing to add, is that actually there's a misunderstanding of expressing emotions in
Mhm.
our, let's say, community. I feel that it's very important to express or feel your emotion. Don't get to drown on it, but at least feel it, because it's, even if it's not good for you, then why Allah created in you? Why Allah created sadness? Why Allah created you to cry, whether it's a happy tear or sad tears? Why Allah created these different type of ups and downs and emotions that you go through? So you need to live it. As long, the more you suppress it, like when you suppress anger, suppress whatever type of bad emotions, it will burst. And this is how we see anger, how we see people shouting or suddenly get mad, because
Sure.
you're suppressing something you should not suppress. You
Mm.
should let your emotion and feel it. And even in Quran, Allah mentioned lots of other also prophets, like for example, Nabina Yusuf, he's told him, don't be scared. He was scared. All of our prophets went through this type of emotions. They were scared, maybe they was worried. There's lots of emotion mentioned in Quran. So why we ashame this type of emotion, or feel like, no, we need always to be 100% strong, 100, like we can deal with it, we can handle it. It's okay to accept your flaws before you accept your qualities or your positive traits. It's totally fine. And this is actually what I am mainly focused in my coaching business, is that know your qualities, know your talent, know your positive side, but also know your negative side or your weaknesses, accept them, and then we can work on to improving them and trying to enhance them. But you need to know both. And this is how you get the confidence. I'm confident because I know my good part and my bad part. I know my strength point and my weakness point. So there is no one to be afraid of. I can show you my weakness. Like no one, I'm not caring about anyone because I know my weakness. If I don't know my weakness, this is where the lack of confidence will come, because I'm afraid someone will know my weaknesses, then I will become insecure and not lack of confidence. But confidence comes from knowing the whole you, all over you, and accept it and work toward it. Here's where you gain confidence.
SubhanAllah, that is a beautiful explanation and perspective on what confidence is. And brothers and sisters who are listening to this, I would highly advise you to rewind, go back for the last 3 minutes and listen to what she said again and again and again. I really think there's so much of wisdom in that. And SubhanAllah, again, how Islam, the religion, the deen, the Quran has given us all of these gems. And man, if we only just spent a little bit more time learning and reflecting our own religion. But we're all imperfect humans and we're working on it. And Basma, I can't think of a better point in this podcast to ask you this question, which is, you're a life coach, right? But we know that the word life coach is a broad umbrella. We've got all types of coaches under the umbrella of life coaching. You've got mindset coaches, personal development coaches, you've got breathwork coaches, and the list goes on. And honestly, even personal trainers are life coaches, right? They are playing a role under the umbrella of life coaching. So for the brothers and sisters who are listening, who might be thinking, damn, Basma is quite awesome. I love her mindset. I'd like to adopt some of the strengths that she has, and I'd like to be coached by her. But what is it exactly you do, Basma? If you can explain to the audience, what is it exactly that you specialize in, and what's your area of expertise under the profession of life coaching?
Mm-hmm. So mainly I focused on career coaching and relationship coaching, which is something, again, my coaching business went out from me experiencing, then I learned the lesson, then I get the knowledge out of it, then I feel, okay, it's my obligation to spread it out to the other people to know it. So I feel I always start with starting to know in yourself. And from knowing yourself, you will be able to take a better decision on a career wise and a better decision on a relationship. Whether you have a problem or conflict with your family, with your spouse, with your friends, any type of negative feeling, once you start to understand yourself, all these negative feelings, you will find answer for them. So I always start with self discovery. Then from that, you will have the answer to all aspects of your life, because you will be able to know your values. You know that what type of decision that works better for me. You will never know. I cannot give you the shell of the answer, tell you, okay, this career is good for you, this relationship is good, do that, do this. No, you need to know yourself, because everyone is different. We're not the same. Everyone is unique. What works for me might not works for you. So once you know yourself, you will be able, okay, this relationship suits me and match my value. This career is match my purpose and my passion and the thing I'm talented in. So it's a whole package. It's a full package. Once you know yourself, you will have answers for everything.
In your experience of working in this profession, Basma, if we take a look at the Muslim sisters out there between the ages of, say, 22 to 30, for example, right? Or even 35. What are some of the biggest challenges that you have seen them face that they have come to you for help?
Well, most of my clients, they get to me feeling lost.
What do you mean by I'd like, for because the listeners would probably get a lot of benefit from this. What do we mean by feeling lost? Because it's an expression people use, like, oh, I feel lost. But what does that really mean in your experience working with people who come to you with this?
Yeah, they feel that, okay, they have a great job, they have a great education, they have great family, let's say, and everything, but then they feel this, they're going into routine. They don't know what's their goal, what is next. Like I'm working in this one for multiple years, but then I don't know what I want. I don't know what type of goal should I be. Where do I see myself in 5 years or so on? Where am I going? That's why I'm feeling lost. I'm good from outside. I'm perfect. I'm following the system that the community built us. Okay, do this, graduate, then have a work, have a family. I have it all. But then what? And this is where you get this type of like enlightening. Not everyone got it, but the one who got it, they're very lucky. When they start to ask, what is next? What I'm really here for? What is my message? What Allah wants me to do in this life? What is the impact that I'm gonna do in this life? What is the change, the positive effect that I'm gonna leave in the people surround me, or even the people all over my community? So here's where I can help out them. Okay, come to me. Then let's start one by one. We will dig in and we'll get it out. We'll find it.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, it makes sense because, again, we spoke about start with why, we've spoken about the purpose of our life as Muslims. And it really makes sense because purpose really is that compass that guides us in the right direction. And I think it's more so relevant in the current age that we live in. Because on one side, the distractions are at an all-time high, but on the other side, options are also really growing by the day. Like 10, 20 years ago, kids didn't grow up wanting to be a YouTuber, but that's actually a well-paid profession in the current context that we live in, right? You didn't get paid to play video games 10, 20, 30 years ago, but people get paid, they earn a full-time career playing video games. So like sometimes I'm even wondering if I should advise someone not to play video games, but I mean, it's all about, of course, looking at the right balance in life. And I think it's a very overwhelming time for people to live in. Not because of a lack of options, but because of an abundance of options. And I think really sitting down with a life coach and working through understanding, like you correctly said, who you are, what your values are, and then seeing what fits into that rather than you trying to fit into the system, like you said, which is what society will tell you. And I don't want to say a victim, but I am somebody who played the game exactly the way society told me. And I do
All
not
this.
blame society. Yeah, of course. I from your story, we can see that, right? The whole do this, they graduate, they get the job in the company, the etc., the etc. And the thing is, people aren't trying to mislead us. They are just looking out for us and giving the best guidance and best information that they can. But the thing is, they're not you. So they don't know who you are. They don't know what makes you happy. They don't know what inspires you. They don't know, what gives you energy, right? Like I always, when people ask me, how do you know that coaching is what you want to do for the rest of your life? Well, I say, first of all, as far as I know, it's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Allah knows best. That can change, like you correctly said before, right? We have to change countries. We have to change professions. We need to get the job done. But when I sit back and I reflect and I ask myself that question, how do I know this is what I want to do? My answer is very simple, right? And I know people sometimes want to hear something like, I want to change the world and I want to impact people. And that's not bad. But if I'm being really honest, the reason I do it is when I am in a coaching session, right? Or if I am delivering a speech for an audience, theoretically, that should take my energy away, theoretically, because you're up, you're moving, you're thinking, you're speaking, you're wearing your voice, like we're doing right now, right? But when I am coaching, number one, I don't feel the time going, right? If I'm speaking, I don't feel the time going. Equally, if I'm having a conversation like we are now, I need to keep checking the clock to be sure that I don't keep our listeners for 5 hours, right? Because nobody's going to listen for 5 hours. But it's because I'm so immersed into it, right? And the second thing is, I know that coaching gives me energy. Like it gives me energy. The more I do it, the more inspired I am. Like the more driven I am, the more I want to do. And sometimes you have to like cut out at a certain time. It's not healthy. You need to obviously get your sleep. You need to take care of your family. You need to do, those are your responsibilities, right? But that's my truth. Like that's my answer. It's not, yes, of course, I love to impact the world. I love to do something. But I also remind myself as a Muslim that it is Allah who will decide what the impact is, right? And it is Allah who will decide, am I blessed enough to coach Mr. X and Mr. Y and Mrs. Z, right? I don't get to pick that, right? All I can do is show up and give my best. Yeah. And it really, hit home for me when you spoke about the point, because it really resonates with me as an individual who didn't know my values, didn't know who I wanted to be, didn't know what gave me energy, versus when I found that clarity, it's like a laser-like focus. Attractive things can come your way and go, but you don't get distracted because you know so clearly that even if it doesn't work out today and it's going to take another 6 months, that is where I want to go to. And the kind of drive that gives you, I can really understand why when you do that work with your clients, it truly transforms their life. Basma, what is something that people struggle to change in your experience of working with them? Where do people get stuck?
Because lots of people, or all of us, have something called limiting beliefs. So
Aha.
we sometimes have been grown up of believing that we will not be a billionaire, or it's very difficult to have this kind of job, or this kind of car, or this kind of house, or living this luxurious life, let's say. So it starts from your belief, the limiting belief, because not all our beliefs are facts, and not all of them are logic. It might be because of something we went through in our life, an event, someone tell us something, then we believe it and grow up believing this is a major belief. So what prevents you to change is your belief. How
Mhm.
to break this belief and start to work towards something that really serve you, not limiting you. So we have lots of belief, and I'm still discovering every day a new belief. So it's normal, but it take time. It's the process. But once you change this belief, you won't imagine the opening and the opportunity that comes to you, because the only limit we put to ourselves is the one inside of our minds. The
Mhm.
word Allah has said that سخرنا لكم السماوات والأرض. Allah has given us everything in the earth and in the skies. Everything was meant for us, was built to serve us. The land, the cars, the birds, the animals, everything for us, the plants, everything has been made for us. So why are you limiting yourself, saying, okay, I only worth this amount of salary, this amount of freedom, this amount of vacation, this amount of happiness? You deserve more, but you need to break all these beliefs. Then things will open up for you.
Subhanallah. So, I mean, for all the ladies who are listening, I think you already know why you might want to reach out to Basma and work with her, right? Get those limiting beliefs out of your system, start dreaming bigger. And like you said very beautifully, Basma, if Allah has created it for us, why are we limiting ourselves? Why do we think we can't get it? I mean, if Allah could have made the ocean split, right? Why can't we get promotion? Right? Let me leave it at that, right? So, Basma, and also I also want to appreciate your honesty and vulnerability, right? Because you said how even you're working and you're discovering limiting beliefs. And this is something I see as a strength in what I call true life coaches. Because out there we have a lot of media portraying coaches and gurus who want to give out the impression that they figured it all out and that's why you should work with them. Yeah. And I usually tell people that's your first sign that that's probably someone you don't want to work with, right?
Exactly.
Just simply because of the obvious reality and logic of life is that nobody can figure out everything. We only know the best and the most that we can know in that particular moment. And you notice when you go to a true expert, forget life coaching, but in any field, even your mechanic, right? If you go to him and say, hey, I've got a sound coming in the left tire, a true mechanic who's an expert will never say, oh, that's because of X, Y, and Z. He'll be like, bring the car. I need to check.
Mhm.
And that's not because he's not an expert. It's because he is an expert and he knows through his expertise that it could be anything, right?
Mhm.
Even though you're hearing a sound from the tire, who knows? Maybe it's coming from somewhere else, right? Just like a doctor would not give you some major diagnosis over the phone or a WhatsApp, he'd want to actually physically examine you. It's the same for coaches, right?
Mhm.
If they don't take the time to sit with you, understand you, and if we as coaches can, I always tell this to myself, if I don't have the courage to tell my clients sometimes, you know what? I don't know, right? I
Exactly.
don't, but let's figure it out together.
Yeah. And you
And I
know
see that in you. In the way that you're speaking, I see that, and that's for me, that's a telltale sign of somebody who is a true coach. In all honesty, right? Not an Instagram coach, so to say. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out. You were going to say something.
Yeah, and this is, it brings us to a point, is that this is the beauty of us as a human.
Mm.
Try to embrace your imperfection, because we are all imperfect. No
Right.
one is perfect. And the more, perfectionism is the thing that actually destroy lots of people and hold them back. Because I want to start a new project. It needs to be perfect. Then they will never start it because you will never get anything perfect. So embrace the imperfection in your qualities, in your body, in your thoughts, in your process. It's all a process. As long as you work toward improving yourself every day and trying to get better or trying to reach a better version of yourself, this is enough. You're enough. You're doing good. You don't need to reach the end result 100%, no flaws. It's never there. It's not true.
Yes, absolutely. That is such a brilliant point. And honestly, you are so in theme with the name of the show, which is Progress Not Perfect. And the very reason I picked that title was because I really believe in that. I really believe in that, in progress and not perfect. And it's honestly not even anything that I need to prove or realization I need to come to, but it is Islam, right? Once again, none of us are perfect. Why do we have to keep going back and repenting, right? Why do we need to keep going and asking for forgiveness, right? Even if we repeat a sin that we've done, it's not good. We shouldn't do it, but we're human and it happens. And when it does happen, to have the humility to go back and cry to Allah and seek that forgiveness, to make a firm intention to not do that, and also do things to make sure you don't do it, right? This whole thing, it's a personal development journey, right? Like Islam is the ultimate personal development manual, not just for this life, not just for success in your job and family and your health and wealth, but even for the eternal life, right? SubhanAllah. So thank you for bringing that. Before I let you go, right? Before I let you go, there's two things. Number one, we live in a world where people like to portray themselves as independent people. I did this by myself. I reached my goal. I. In your journey, in all of the successes that you've had in your life, how important has it been to have a support network, be it your family, your friends, a community? Has that been important? And if so, how important is that?
Yeah. Actually, it was very important because they are the first person who point out for me that I can't work as a life coach. I didn't believe it in
Oh,
the beginning, but then when I start to get these type of messages of lots of different people telling me, maybe you should try to be a life coach. You could be very good at it. Then, so it's a reflection again, but this is a very important to get this reflection or opinion from the people that that they love you and they want their best interest. So they were the kind of appointing, like they're showing lightning onto the things that they see in myself I might not see or I have overlooked. So I feel like was me all the time, but until I get it so obvious and people start to tell me, you need to go into psychology, starts having a career in life coach, you really work on it. So it helped me a lot.
mhm.
But in the support for me, to be honest, you need to rely more on yourself and on Allah because everyone can change, everyone can go and come. You don't have control over the outside environment or the people. So if you get attached too much to the people who help you or advise you, you will get stuck because maybe the other day they will tell you, okay, you're not good. Then you will believe and destroy everything you built. You cannot.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they help you, you take advices, and you decide which one align with your value and the foundation you built about yourself. Then you said, okay, I'm gonna take this compliment or I will not take it because you know yourself better.
Mhm.
It's good to have support, it's good to have feedback, a reflection, but you need to have a strong foundation in yourself. So you will not get easily affected. You will decide which one to take, which one to not take. Because the only constant person who will stay with you is yourself till the day you die. So
Mm.
this is the one you need to invest better or most within your life journey.
I love that. I love that. Right. And I love what you said about our primary dependence being on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because as much as sometimes it a difficult reality to digest, it is a fact that sometimes even our own parents in certain situations may not make the best decision for us. Again, not because they want to hurt us, but it is the way they see things to be the best, but it may not objectively be the best. But the one person who always has our best interest is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And his plan is always the best. So trusting and relying in that. But then, as you mentioned also, we are social creatures and we do thrive in society, and feedback is important. So we need a support network. We need people to work with, people who can tell us what they think about what we're doing, what we can do better, what we're not doing right. But then also we need to marry that with our own self-discovery, which is knowing who you are, knowing that, hey, yeah, that guy did say that, but come on, that's not true. That isn't who I am, right? So it's okay. I will just take it from here and put it out from there, right? And this combination is really what you're saying is your holistic support network, not just blindly relying on a group of people, not only thinking I will rely on Allah and distance myself from the rest of Allah's creation. That's not the way we've been advised. And one thing that always reminds me of that is Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam having the Sahabas, right? His greatest asset, right? These people around him to support him, to be there, all of that, right? I mean, he had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why does he need Sahabas? But there's something Allah is trying to show us in there. Like, we need to have, and it doesn't have to be 100 people, but that those three really good friends or family members that you can tell them honest feedback and they won't get offended, right? And they can give you nasiha and you will not get offended, right? Maybe it'll hurt because you're human, right? But you will be like, you know what, no, I know it's coming from a good place. So let me reconsider that, because like you said, none of us are perfect. Basma, before I let you go, last question. Let's assume a brother or a sister didn't pay attention to this entire podcast, right? But you had an opportunity to ingrain in them, right, one piece of information or advice or belief. That's it, right? And from today onwards, they will think, act, and behave with that. They will apply it. What would that one piece of information, advice, or belief be?
Well, I would like to tell them that happiness is really a choice. You can choose to be happy. You can choose to live the heaven on earth before the other heaven. But you choose. You have the choose to whether things I will take, the things that suits me. What type of life do I want to? What type of dreams and goals do I want to take? You are in charge. Don't surrender to any other thing. Don't make excuses. You have it all within you. Once you find out this within you, everything from outside will be beautiful. Everything will be easy. You will live the dream without you, but it all starts from within.
Wow, that was literally like a master class on how we can be happy in any given moment. Basma, before we let you go, on behalf of everybody who's listening here today, and from me as well, Jazakumullah khairan for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here today. We really appreciate it. And the last few lines of advice you gave is something you really embody. From the very first conversation that we had when we connected based on our professions, you've always carried yourself with a smile, but you've also balanced that smile with humility. And you've been very open and honest in sharing experiences you've been through, which I am confident the sisters listening would have been inspired. But as a brother, I myself am inspired, especially the way your mindset is, right? The way that you've coached yourself, right? Into looking for what's there, what's available, what can I do? Even in times where 6 months, nothing is working out, you're still waking up, you're still going at it, you're still pushing, you're still trying, you're keeping your reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah, it's really an inspiration, right? And excuse me, that's really what I would like everyone who is listening to this podcast right now to take from it. And Basma, if any of the brothers or sisters out there want to reach out to you, if they want to employ your services, if they want to get clear on who they are, if they want to shift their mindset, where can they find you and how can they reach you?
Sure. So I have my own website called Coaching with Basma, and they also can reach me through Instagram, through Telegram, same name, Coaching with Basma, or I have another account, Basma Luped. So I'm everywhere. I can share with you my website, and I'm more than happy to help anyone who reach out for me.
Absolutely. So what we'll do is let's put your website in the show notes so that anybody listening to the podcast can simply click on it. So I'll have you send that over to me. Brothers and sisters, Basma. Jazakumullah khair and assalamu alaikum.